This is going to be one tough set of negotiations, quite likely the toughest that I've ever been in. So I am as frustrated as I can be. This is a big-ass deal. Bargaining with the Detroit Three at any time is difficult. Bargaining with GM is always incredibly difficult. So we need to find a way to get this over the finish line. Look, we did it. And I'm very pleased to announce that as of 3 o'clock this morning, we reached a tentative agreement with General Motors that I believe will solidify the footprint here in Canada for years and years to come. The pattern has already been established by Ford Motor Company. Did Chrysler like it? No. Will GM like it? No. But the bottom line is that's our system. GM established a pattern in the United States with the UAW in 2019, and Ford and Fiat Chrysler followed the pattern. So they understand. So we'll see where this thing takes us. This is going to be one tough set of negotiations, quite likely the toughest that I've ever been in. But we need a solution because this is a community that has been, in essence, negatively impacted. The federal government, and frankly, to a smaller extent, the province, are saying, what's our economy going to look like post-pandemic? So in Ontario, this is our number one industry. This is a $100 billion a year industry. And so the Ontario government takes a look at it and says, hey, we better find a way to preserve this industry or we're going to be in deep crap as a province. The federal government's saying, hey, we have this green plan. And if you got a green plan, well, then you got to start in the auto industry.
Day one is in the books. How's it looking?
Well, it's awfully early. We just laid out the economic pattern to the company. We laid out our priorities in bargaining. Priorities in bargaining is really to find some programs that are going to offset the inevitable job loss in our St. Catherine powertrain operations. And we spent a fair bit of time talking about General Motors in Oshawa. The fact that the integrity of the plant is still in place, the paint shop is there, the ability to build vehicles is all still in place. And so the path to successful negotiations is really to finding solutions to those two problems. Well, it's too early to tell. I mean, the Canadian GE Canadian team is here. I'm really waiting for the American players to come into town. They're expected to come in on the 27th, but same thing. We're waiting for the federal government to make sure that they're deemed essential workers to cross the border without having to quarantine. And I'm speaking directly with Bill Blair, the federal minister. He understands what could happen here, what it would mean to the community of Oshawa if in fact we found a solution. So the governments are cooperating, and like I said, the key piece, and I'll know more on the 27th when the top executives arrive here in town. We've got 8 days before a deadline, and we have miles to go. And let me tell you one of the reasons why. The way the Detroit Three are structured, the way many corporations are structured, you would have the Canadian arm, but the Canadian team really doesn't have any power. But now here we are with GM. So we have 4 top executives want to come into Canada to sit down with us about, a whole host of things. So I view that as incredibly optimistic because some of the senior decision makers from GM, I would hope, wouldn't be coming to Canada to tell me to pound salt. So they applied on the 4th of October. This is the 27th. Look, I have spoke to more ministers, Prime Minister's office, more bureaucrats. Everybody keeps saying, look, we understand the importance of this, we understand the importance of this, understand the importance of this. 27th is still not here. This is a big-ass deal. This is a big deal. If we can pull this off, then so many people will benefit from this. So this isn't a situation where I have a deal in my back pocket that GM has said, here's what we're going to do in St. Catharines, here's what we're going to do, and I won't have any of that. But what I do have is a strong understanding of how they operate as a company. And if they want to come to Canada to talk to us about finding some resolve, well, then you would think that everybody would understand the importance of this, and they do. This is Canada's #1 manufacturing sector. It's $100 billion a year. So I am as frustrated as I can be. When Oshawa closed, that was 30,000 direct and indirect jobs. 30,000. So, are they going to reopen Oshawa? I don't know that. Am I going to have that conversation with them? Absolutely I am.
If you don't get them here, could this whole thing just blow right up?
It could. It could blow up. Hopefully talking about reopening an assembly plant. This isn't crap. I'd rather look GM right in the face because, look, let's be candid. We had one heck of a dust-up with GM in 2018, 2019. Oh, anyway, my frustration has boiled over today. Much better frame of mind today because all the, the bureaucrats took care of what they needed to do. GM signed the necessary paperwork in order to enter Canada. So what's left is closing the deal, which is going to be difficult to say the least. Bargaining with the Detroit Three at any time is difficult. Bargaining with GM is always incredibly difficult. We established the deadline on the 4th of November, to be honest with you, because it's a day after the U.S. presidential election. So I wanted to make sure that there was no impediment to finding a solution. It's not as if somebody has said, look, like we don't want to get caught in the crossfires of Trump.
Why are you letting them steal your auto jobs? They're all going down to Mexico. And by the way, plenty go to Canada too, right? People don't know that. And everybody said, we'll never be able to do it. We'll never be able to end NAFTA. And you know why? Because it was so good for Canada and so good for Mexico. And they have a lot of power. But we ended it, and they're not that happy, but they're happy enough, and we have a great deal. And we have people, I'll tell you, Mexico, we've had a great relationship with Mexico. Canada is a little difficult to deal with, to be honest with you. You know, Oh Canada, we all love Oh Canada, right? I love that.
So we have a group that are saying, well, the solution for GM in Oshawa should be that the federal government should buy the plant and they should invest in electric vehicles. Well, two things. That's great in theory, but the practical reality of that is zero. So I don't have the luxury of living in fantasy land. I don't have the luxury of saying, oh geez, if we lived in this hypothetical beautiful world. It doesn't work that way. We've got to find solutions for working people. I got to get them back to work. But the federal government, like the provincial government, will fund and will assist a major OEM that wants to build. So the solution for Oshawa today, there's one solution. The one solution is General Motors. Because we need a vehicle in the plant quickly before everything rusts, falls apart. And so we have a very short window, and the window is right now. And to know the other great one, too, that they'll talk about is employee ownership. Oh, really? So let's see. So it takes $1.5 billion for a platform. So now the workers were going to buy the plant, which is going to cost X amount of dollars. We're going to invest in the technology in order to build a vehicle. We're going to build a platform. We're going to mobilize the part supply base. We're like, honest to God. And if you listen to them, you know, they'll sit in a room and come up with the best suggestions. And then the only thing that they will truly accomplish from that discussion is when they're going to have the next meeting. Things are starting to move. I mean, we've got a strike deadline in about 48, 50 hours from now. Okay, so the senior executives came into town and they really wanted to talk about, you know, as I had hoped, how are we going to reopen Oshawa? One thing about the COVID crisis, it's caused all kinds of difficulties in so many areas, of course, as it relates to the health of people, the trauma, the deaths, so all of that stuff. But the auto industry, it's had an unusual effect, because in the beginning we knew that when, you know, at the beginning of 2020 that there was going to be a 3-4% reduction in the in volumes globally for the buying of cars, and then of course there was going to be a 3-4% reduction here in North America. So that was expected. But then COVID hit, and the market just fell right apart. We shut down assembly plants. But one thing that nobody expected that was going to come out of COVID was the fact that people were going to say, hey, hold on here. I'm not flying on a plane. I don't want to be on a train. I don't want to be a bus. I don't want to hop in with an Uber driver. I don't want a Lyft driver. So these whole ride-sharing programs are now falling apart, and people are saying, listen, if I'm getting from point A to point B, I want my own vehicle. So what has happened that nobody expected is this incredible spike in vehicle sales. The good news is that, look, there's no question. The executives were here from GM to find a solution. They recognize the importance of the Canadian market, and I really think it's really about moving ahead. GM is personal to me, completely personal. I mean, my father, who's 90 years old, lives in Oshawa. 2 of my sisters live in Oshawa. Nieces, nephews live in Oshawa. My mother's buried in Oshawa. So for me, when we went through the announcement in November of 2018, it wasn't just about the impact it had on me and personally, but I knew, and I know the community. And so the devastation, so I've been preoccupied ever since. We need to find a way to get this over the finish line, but the key thing is at least we're talking about it now. Do we have obstacles? Yes. Do we have hurdles? Yes. Is there a chance that it might fall apart? Yes. But at least we're starting to talk about it, which is 100% better off than we were even yesterday. The GM people we're dealing with, our relationship is much different today than it was even a year ago. We're moving forward. I can't have myself mired in paybacks and how do I hit them hard and how do I, try to overcompensate for the decision that they made. That won't do me any good.
What about that?
The bottom line is I need to find a
these
solution.
things.
Look, the bottom line is I need a solution, and they're here to find a solution as well. So what that looks like, I'm not sure. Will we get there? I hope so. There's a lot of work to do, but there's a different conversation, and I will say a different trust factor, and the relationship is much different today than it was a year ago. So if I were to listen to those that were talking about Armageddon, we wouldn't be having these conversations today. And I'm very pleased to announce that as of 3 o'clock this morning, we reached a tentative agreement with General Motors that I believe will solidify the footprint here in Canada for years and years to come. For the community of Oshawa, look, we've been through some tough times in the past, but I'll suggest to you that we have nothing but bright times for the future. GM's not going to invest $1.3 billion in Oshawa to run away in 3 years. We're going to be there for a long, long, long time, and I feel damn good about it.